The former F&M chairman blames the Anglican Archbishop for the failure of the last gender referendum. The Constitutional Commission allays fears the bills will lead to same-sex marriage. One Haitian activist calls on Bahamians to vote no. We'll tell you why. Plus, Cabbage Beach vendors' concerns over business licenses. We've got those stories and a lot more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and MB12 starts right now. Free National Movement Chairman Darren Cash has called for retired Anglican Archbishop Drexel Gomez to refrain from condemning any comments made by the opposition as it relates to the gender equality referendum. Gomez has dismissed opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis's call for the government to apologize for the 2002 referendum's failure. But Cash insists Gomez is one of those to blame for that failure, as well as using what Cash called his influence to campaign against the bills and muddy the water. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
Cash said if the gender equality referendum is successful, Prime Minister Perry Christie's legacy could be looking pretty good. But he added that comments like those made by former Anglican Archbishop Drexel Gomez aren't really helping his cause.
He had an opportunity to use his good offices to provide clarity, to provide information, to provide education to people who had genuine questions and concerns. But rather than doing that, it is my view that he muddied the water, and intentionally so. So rather than bringing clarity, he caused confusion.
Cash said while he doesn't want to get into a war of words with the retired Archbishop, he can't help but recall that Gomez emerged as one of the main people responsible for the failure of the referendum. He said if all goes well and the Bahamian people vote yes to the 4 gender equality questions, then this could be the legacy the Prime Minister was looking to leave behind. But he said while the government is calling Wednesday's vote in Parliament historic, Christie must remember that the same thing happened in 2002, and if he wants people to praise him for it, he shouldn't bring up what he thinks went wrong.
It is advantageous and will be advantageous for him not to remind people of what he did back in 2002. And the easiest way for him to do that is not to misrepresent the record of the Free National Movement government back at that time.
And what Cash said doesn't help Christie's case is Gomez bringing things up from 2002. He said it could end up having an adverse effect and make the referendum political once again.
And so it does not serve the Prime Minister's interest to have him out there suggesting that Dr. Minnis was wrong, to remind Perry Christie of what he did, and to suggest that the right thing for Mr. Christie to do would be to apologize, because people remember that the bishop was instrumental in the defeat, and it wasn't for good reasons. It is my view that he saw a political opportunity and exploited it.
Cash said he's of the belief that Christie, now joined by the retired bishop, is already poisoning the well and jeopardizing the success of the referendum. He said this time, though, if it fails, the F&M won't be to blame.
Folks like the Prime Minister and the Bishop, who were leaders in the Vote No campaign in 2002, ought to remain quiet. To the extent that the Prime Minister speaks, he ought to correctly represent the record of the F&M, not misrepresent it, because to do so reminds people of why they are upset with him. And in this regard, the bishop's comments, in my view, are not helpful, because he is a reminder of what went wrong the last time.
The next stop for the 4 gender bills is the Senate, after which the questions are expected to be put to the people via referendum. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Retired Justice Ruby Nottage sought to address concerns over one of the most talked about gender equality bills, Bill number 4. The bill seeks to end discrimination based on sex, but as many are concerned that the bill would lead to same-sex marriage, others are questioning why the bill did not clearly state based on sex at birth instead. We asked Nottage to clarify if the bill would lead to same-sex marriage.
In my humble opinion, no. This is if the enactment occurs. The enactment will give a definition to sex, and sex will be either male or female. Now they may say, oh, but that still doesn't clarify it. The second thing I'd like to be very clear on is that this bill is about discrimination, not about marriage. And marriage is defined in our Bahamas as between a male and a female. And that doesn't change. This bill does not touch marriage. In fact, marriage is even more securely given the definition of male and female in the Constitution in Article 26(4), and that is not changing. And so marriage between two men or two women, same-sex unions as you may call it, is not at all within the concept of our Constitution or our law at the present time.
A representative of the Constitutional Commission explained that had the words "at birth" been inserted in the bill, that would mean "at birth" would have to be inserted wherever the entire Constitution mentions sex, which would only make the Constitution that much more complex.
Let me take you back to Article 15 of our Constitution, which speaks to the fundamental rights and freedoms of an individual. And most notably, it highlights the right to life, the right to security, liberty, protection of the law, and what have you. And so when you read those fundamental rights, the rights provision, you would then include that a person is entitled to these rights irrespective of his race, place of origin, political opinion, his sex, and sex would be his sex at birth. Okay? And so what then does that say or do to, for example, the unborn child? What you're saying then is that these fundamental rights and provisions and freedoms won't arise until birth. And then that to us sort of took the discussion on a slippery slope into allowing abortion rights.
Well, charging that the government is seeking to make it easier for foreign men to get citizenship while scores of Bahamians of Haitian descent are in limbo, Haitian activist and radio personality Luby Georges called on that segment of society to vote against the proposed gender equality changes. Georges, who is a Bahamian of Haitian descent, announced today that he has reservations with certain bills and is urging a no vote. Simone Davis reports.
Georgia says he believes the government is just being blatantly disrespectful to Haitian Bahamians through its failure to deal with the scores of them who are waiting to be naturalized.
We do not fundamentally oppose Bill number 2 or any Bill number 1 or 3, but on a matter of principles, we think that the government is disrespecting, is slighting, is overlooking persons born in this country and is giving more value to persons who probably don't even know about the Bahamas by way of allowing them an easier access to citizenship here in the Bahamas, or Bahamian citizenship, by way of simply marrying a Bahamian woman.
Bill number 2 seeks to enable a Bahamian woman who marries a foreign man to secure for him the same access to Bahamian citizenship that a Bahamian man has always had under the Constitution in relation to his foreign spouse. Under the proposed bill, foreign men married to Bahamian women must be married for a period of 5 years before they could apply for citizenship. However, citizenship would not be granted in cases where it is found that it is a marriage of convenience or that the foreign man has been convicted in any country of specified criminal offenses. But Georges said the government needs to concentrate on the people who are waiting to be naturalized instead of adding more strain to an already burdened Department of Immigration.
We're left asking a question, who matters most? Who should matter most? We're not 2 years removed from the government going out of their way to make the process of gaining citizenship or naturalization that much harder. If it wasn't hard, as if it wasn't hard, it became even harder now with the implementation of the new immigration policies that came about November 1st, 2014. That's not 2 years yet. The government went out of their way. They created new laws. They did what they had to do. And now they are going to ask me and you and every Bahamian to go and vote, and they're going to spend millions of our dollars on a referendum where they're now going to give a easier path to citizenship for foreign men than persons born here in the country.
Georges said he's not agitating on behalf of any illegal person who has a child in the Bahamas. However, he added that children who are born here should be protected.
To speak to the illegals that you made mention of, persons born in this country are not illegals. Their parents may be illegals. All right, their parents may be illegal, but they are not illegal. Nobody can come to us and prove to us and even go to court and challenge it and prove that these persons are illegal. Remember, a court of law, a judge is supposed to make that determination on whether a person is legal or illegal. And there are only a few ways an individual can be illegal in the country. If you came in illegally, you landed illegally, you overstayed your visa, your work permits expired, those are the ways that persons become illegal, not by way of being born in the Bahamas.
Bill 1 seeks to enable a child born outside of the Bahamas to become a citizen at birth if either his or her mother or father is a citizen of the Bahamas by birth. Bill 3 would allow any unmarried Bahamian man to pass on citizenship to his child, subject to legal proof that he is the father. Bill 4 seeks to make it unconstitutional to discriminate based on sex. Though Georges said he is not opposed to Bills 1 and 3, he will not support them and made it clear that he also fears that Bill 4 would lead to same-sex marriage.
We understand exactly what is going on. So the Bahamians of Haitian descent, the people of foreign parentage, we are saying that we are going to be voting no because we are tired of being overlooked, we are tired of being disrespected, and we are tired of the trickery by these administrations, in particular this PLP government. And so bill number 4, hell no to that. And bill number 2, we're tired of being disrespected.
The activist questioned the purpose of voting for Bills 1 through 3, stating that he believes that the government has a personal agenda with Bill number 4 and is just using the first 3 bills to deflect. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
In other news, Cabbage Beach vendors say they can't seem to get a break as they are now being faced with not being able to get a proper business license that would allow them to freely sell their goods on Cabbage Beach. Vendors are saying a new clause has been added to try and prevent their approval. Giorgio Bain has the story.
President of the Cabbage Beach Business Vendors Association, Monique Taylor, says vendors are now being asked to provide a letter of approval from the owners of the Cabbage Beach property. Taylor says this was never a requirement and it cannot be determined who the actual owner is if the matter is still before the courts.
Many of the business owners, along with myself, have applied to a business license to have their license renewed for 2016. And to our surprise, we have learned that the requirements is different. What they are requesting from us as a requirement is that we go and get a letter from Ministry of Tourism, and then we go and also get a letter from the so-called property owners. But the government business license have taken the position right now to already make a decision that they are the property owner, which in that matter is before the Supreme Court, and the ruling haven't been handed down as yet.
Cabbage Beach vendors say they are now being posed with a brand new obstacle as they now need a letter of approval from the landowner in order to get their business licenses. President of the Chamber of Commerce, Edison Sumner, says this clause is not new at all.
It's not new to the extent that you have to prove that you have the right to be where you are, to operate the business you're operating, right? So that clause isn't new to doing business.
Halson Mutcher, the attorney representing the Cabbage Beach Business Vendors Association, says the vendors are now being asked to provide an unusual request by being asked to produce a letter of approval from the property owner, even though they sell on a public beach.
The government is putting obstacles in the way of the vendors as they apply to renew their business license. The government is now demanding that the vendors produce a letter of approval from the property owner. And they're demanding that the Ministry of Tourism somehow produce something. I don't know if it's a letter or an ID card or whatever, but these are unusual requirements when you consider that the vendors are not working on any private property. The vendors are working on the public beach below the high water mark.
However, President of the Chamber of Commerce Edison Sumner says whether the vendors are selling on a public or private land, they must produce a letter of approval showing that they have permission to use the land.
For persons who are operating either from a public space or from a private space owned by private landowners or building owners, that you are required to have some level or to show some proof that you have the right to be where you are, right? Now, so if you're going to do that and you're trying to operate from a public space, then it's the logical thing to do is to go to whatever government agency is responsible for that space and request permit or permission to use that space to operate from.
Sumner recommends that the vendors become members of the Chamber of Commerce to help them get their business licenses sorted out as soon as possible. Reporting for NB12, I'm Georgie O'Bain.